Hey everyone, my name is Chris and today I want to take you behind the scenes on a recent commercial video job I did in Rwanda, Africa for a wilderness safaris, a big safari company in Africa. I want to take you behind the scenes on the production of it, the pre-production and post-production. So how a commercial project comes to life, what happens before and after, because I get a lot of questions on how to make money with photography and cinematography, and a lot of people don't seem to be aware that it's not just how you use a camera, but it's also how you sell the product that you can produce with that camera. So I want to show off that a little bit today and hopefully get something out of it. So let's dive straight into it. First of all, who's the client? Who am I talking to? What do they want? What kind of productions have they done before? Where am I in this field, and how can I bring my skills to improve or deliver something that the client will love and hopefully hire me again for? In this case, this was a high-end luxury type of safari company that do really exclusive and unique stuff. So the video had to have that feel in it. And they opened up a new camp called Magashi in Akagera National Park in Rwanda. To me, that all sounded like Chinese. To be honest with you, I wasn't even sure where Rwanda is. So I had to do a little bit of homework, and that is one of the most important things. It's the pre-production, doing your research, knowing your client, knowing your production area. What are we going to be shooting? Where are we going to be shooting? What has been done before for this client, for other clients? Who are their competitors? And what is the message that this client wants to send? You need to find out, and the more you communicate with that client, the more you'll get their confidence, and they know that they can be confident in you, that you will be producing something that's worth their money. That is rule number one. Be really open communication with the client and ask all the questions and put all of that together in a nice package. Which brings me to my second point. I always put together two things. One is a project outline, a project proposal. So the client says, I want A, B, and C, and I do my research and be, okay, I can deliver A, B, and C, and it'll look like this. And exactly that should be on a PDF, nicely presented, so there's no questions afterwards or during the project. What are we even filming? How are we filming it? Why are we filming it? None of that should be a question that should be asked when you're in production. So I put together what cameras are we going to be using, what kind of delivery format, how long is the video going to be, the outline of the story, and obviously what it's going to cost and what's included and excluded in that cost. And that is my project proposal. That's one really important thing that I settle and set down with the client before we do anything else. I then move on to the storyboard. Have some Skype calls, have phone calls, have email back and forth with the clients, finding out what kind of story do we want to tell. And the more information I can gather in my research, the better my storyboard, and the more likely is that the client will like the story that I first propose, which is going to be my initial idea, my initial thing I actually want to produce. So I kind of hope that they take the first storyboard and then don't go, hey, we don't like that at all. You completely misunderstood us and our message, and the story doesn't work. So it's good to do a good job, because then your creativity, your concept will come to life, and you don't have to change it and come up with something completely different, and it can be really tough and disappointing for you. It'll include a short outline of the story that I want to tell, as well as detailed information about each scene I'd like to shoot. So what kind of scenes we want to shoot at the camp, what kind of wildlife scenes, what kind of people shots do we want to get, can we get into the sky, all those things. So all this preparation helps you to know what you can shoot and what you can't shoot once you get on location. Which brings me to the next point, the gear. What kind of gear am I going to take? And based on my preparations and research, I will know, okay, I'm going to need a big cinema camera. I'm going to need long lenses. We're going to be shooting lions. How close can we get? What kind of movement do we want? I wanted to shoot with a gimbal. Do we need rails? Do we need to do panning shots? What kind of sound are we going to be recording? All these questions can be answered pre-production, which helps me find out how much weight am I going to be taking with me, what gear can I take, and what can I leave at home? Maybe do I still need to buy some gear? All those things are part of pre-production and planning your project. And then once you're on location, every single piece of equipment I took with me, I actually used. I recently watched Our Planet series on Netflix. Can highly recommend it. The cinematography, the storytelling, thanks to good old David Attenborough, is amazing. But most importantly, the cinematography is fresh. There's something Something in it was different to any other wildlife or nature documentary that I've seen before. You soon realize it's the movement of the camera. Almost every scene you see, or every impressive scene, has moving camera shots, and I love moving the camera. The question was, how could I take this moving camera shots into what I was doing for the client? For me, that was an opportunity to spice up my cinematography and hopefully take the project to a new level that the client hadn't seen before, unless they had worked with the Netflix team, which I don't think they did. And what I really wanted was tracking shots of wildlife. So as the wildlife's moving, the camera's moving as well, and you get this parallel movement where basically the wildlife is staying in the same spot in the shot, but everything else is moving. The foreground, the background, and that just creates a super dynamic three-dimensional effect that is fascinating and beautiful. It's not so easy to do, but I really wanted to achieve that. And for me, that meant I had to mount the Blackmagic Ursa Mini 4.6K camera with a relatively long lens. I had a 24-70 onto the Ronin gimbal, which then weighs about 12 kilos, so I had to stabilize it with the Ready Rig. There's another video on that coming up very soon, or it'll pop in right now if it's already up, to be able to hold this thing and hold it out, and we had to communicate with the drivers to stay parallel to the animals and fully zoomed in and stay parallel. And yeah, I think it worked. They're my favorite shots. Most of amount of planning, effort, and reward were all very high in that, and that just makes it worth it. And the clients loved it too. Once you've figured out a storyboard, you actually know what you want to shoot. Then becomes, when do you want to shoot it? So creating sort of a schedule. On what day will we be where to shoot these scenes? The more detailed you get, the more efficient you'll be. Knowing how long it takes to take different shots, to get those shots to compile your story, is quite important. So you know that a simple scene of getting out of a car and into a car can take 20 minutes to shoot, but shooting lions will probably take half a day because you have to track them down, find them. Then you need to have good light, good moment. The wildlife is very unpredictable and difficult to shoot, and having only 2.5 days to shoot all that plus a camp can be quite challenging. In total, I had 2 weeks from first contact to sitting in the plane and heading off to Rwanda. That is a very short amount of time considering the amount of research and preparation a project like this requires. So I was basically flat out for almost 2 weeks before the production. Then we had a week of production, and then about 2 weeks, 3 weeks after that, I was post-production putting it together. So it's a solid month of working on a production. And we were there to shoot 2 videos. One was on the camp, the facilities, what people could expect when they go there. It's a new camp, new area, private concession, lots of wildlife. Secondly, we were asked to shoot a destination video, so promote Rwanda as a destination. So the first one, we had 2.5 days to film, and the second one, same 2.5 days. Obviously, some of the footage from the camp video, the wildlife and so on, carries across to the Rwanda video as well. For this project, I also had a good friend with me who was my second shooter, Wesley, who I've worked with plenty of times. We give each other lots of projects where I'll be his second shooter or the other way around, and that's something, sort of a backup for me as well. I know this guy is super reliable, and I know that he brings his creativity to the table, and you just have extra reliability because you have additional gear there and additional creative minds working together, and the production quality just multiplies like crazy. So having someone that's next to you or behind you shooting the tight shot while you're shooting the wide shot is absolutely crucial to success in a project like this, especially with the unpredictable nature of wildlife. Once we finish this whole production, to me, a project like this should be delivered within a week. It was a 2.5-minute video. The production was very linear, so I knew which scene was going to go where, and it's quite straightforward to putting the whole thing together. I gave myself a week and I delivered first version within 2 or 3 days, and basically sat a couple of nights through to edit it and have it ready. 1, because it's fresh in your mind, get to it, and 2, it's to impress the client, show the speed and capability you can put on the table from pre-production, production to post-production. The whole thing was shot in ProRes 4.6K on the Ursa, ProRes 422, and ProRes on the GH5. EM1X of the Olympus was for all the aerial stuff. I put everything into Final Cut 10 and have my whole folder structure there, and everything was on a timeline. Music came from Musicbed, which I love using. They have great music. I mixed up 2 songs to match the vibe and speed of my video. I like to have a slow section, then a really fast-paced section to create that emotion and speed and carry through the story. The outline of the story was this beautiful new camp, the final last touches being made to the camp as the first guest arrives and then experiences this and goes on various activities that we could see, you know, on a game drive and so on, and sees the wildlife, comes back to the camp, enjoys the facilities, showing off the luxury and the beauty of everything there and the attention to detail, and sort of mixing back and forth between that, and then closing it off with a nice campfire shot or a nice wildlife shot. The weather was absolutely not in our favor. We didn't have a single sunrise or sunset. Some rain, some storms, quite interesting skies, but mostly flat light, barely any nice direct sunlight, so it was quite difficult to make it look warm and nice. To me, it was quite important to be able to fake the sun, so we actually took some lights. I used an aperture 120D just to light up lots of the interior scenes, create some flares, nice atmosphere in the shots, as you can see. I actually sent an ungraded first version within 2-3 days, which had pretty much a story in it the way I wanted it, but it was still a very rough cut, and I had to emphasize that with the client. It wasn't perfect to the music yet. There was no audio design beyond the music. There was no sound design yet, anything like that. Those are details I'll do afterwards once I know which scene goes where and if, you know, the client's happy with the story. Within a week, we had version 3 going, and that was where we finished it. And client was happy, I hope. Some final words. Well, what did I learn? Every project comes with sort of a lesson and something you've learned out of that. And I think this project was really about preparation. I do a lot of preparation, but this was really fast, last-minute preparation, and somehow we made it work. And now for the next project, in a couple of weeks, we're going back to Africa, have the same thing, sort of coming into that routine of preparing and doing everything in order and finding out as much information as possible and being more flexible on location. Those things are some things you learn by doing, or mistakes that you make that you can only get better at. So the next story, I am really quite confident that we're beginning to be telling a more interesting and more beautiful story. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little production vlog episode, and if you want to see more of this, let me know in the comments below. If you have any questions, let me know as well. Please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and I'll promise I'll be making more videos in the future. Finally have a little bit of a rhythm going. So yeah, stay tuned for more videos coming up, and see you next time.